10 toxic phrases women use to manipulate, and why high-value men walk away when they hear them. Have you ever been in a situation where a woman says something that just doesn't sit right? Maybe it felt like a harmless comment at first, but deep down, you knew something was off. Men who understand Stoicism and self-respect know that words matter. Some phrases aren't just words. They're warning signs that tell you exactly who you're dealing with. Ignore them, and you risk falling into a manipulative, toxic cycle. So today, we're breaking down 10 toxic phrases women use, and why high-value men walk away when they hear them. Stick around till the end, because number 7 is the most manipulative one of all. Let's get into it. Number 1. You're overreacting. When someone hits you with the phrase, "you're overreacting," it might sound harmless on the surface, but don't be fooled. This is Gaslighting 101, a classic psychological manipulation tactic designed to make you question your emotions and doubt your reality. You see, when a woman says, "you're overreacting," she's not really addressing the core issue. No, she's dodging accountability, shutting down the conversation before it even begins, and subtly implying that you are the problem for feeling the way you do. It's like putting a lid on a boiling pot and pretending the heat isn't still there. Think about it. Instead of acknowledging that something might be wrong, she flips the focus onto you, your emotions, your reaction, as if that's where the problem lies. This isn't communication, it's deflection, and over time, it chips away at your confidence, leaving you questioning your instincts. Now picture this. You calmly express your feelings, saying, "I felt disrespected when you ignored me at the party." Rather than pausing to reflect, she snaps back with, "Oh my God, you're so sensitive. You're totally overreacting." What's really happening here? She's not addressing your concern. She's shifting the spotlight, making it about your reaction instead of her behavior. Suddenly, you're caught off guard, wondering if maybe she's right. But she's not. As Marcus Aurelius wisely put it, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Conflict isn't a roadblock, it's an opportunity. In relationships, the discomfort of facing issues should lead to growth, not suppression. But phrases like, "you're overreacting," are designed to halt that growth, silencing your voice under the guise of emotional stability. So, how do you handle it? Simple. Stand your ground. You don't need to yell. You don't need to defend every emotion. Instead, respond with calm certainty. "I'm not overreacting. My feelings are valid, and I expect respect in this conversation." This isn't just a comeback. It's a declaration. You're stating that your emotions aren't up for debate. You're shifting the power dynamic back where it belongs, on mutual respect. If she continues dismissing your feelings after that, it's not a reflection of your sensitivity. It's a reflection of her emotional immaturity. And if this behavior becomes a pattern, recognize it for what it is, a sign of deeper issues. You deserve relationships where your feelings are acknowledged, not dismissed. Where conversations are a two-way street, not a courtroom where you're constantly on trial for having emotions. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So react with strength. React with clarity. And if necessary, react by walking away from anyone who tries to make you feel small for simply feeling. Number 2. If you really loved me, you would. When someone says, "If you really loved me, you would," it might sound like a plea for affection, but make no mistake, this is one of the most common manipulation tactics in relationships. When you hear this phrase, pause and think. What's really happening here? She's not appealing to your love. She's weaponizing it to pressure you into doing something that benefits her, often at your expense. You see, this statement isn't about love. It's about control. A healthy relationship thrives on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. But when a woman starts saying, "If you really loved me, you would," she's testing your limits, guilt-tripping you, and disguising manipulation as affection. It sounds like love, but it's really about control. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca wisely said, "He who is brave is free." In relationships, emotional freedom is key. The moment love is used as leverage, that freedom starts to slip away. Imagine this. You have an important work trip that could advance your career. You explain how crucial it is, expecting support. Instead, she pouts and says, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't leave me alone for the weekend." She's not respecting your goals or independence. Instead, she's making your love for her the condition for changing your decision. This isn't about missing you. It's about controlling you. This isn't love, it's manipulation. Now, imagine you cave in. You cancel your trip. She gets what she wants. But here's the problem. She now knows this tactic works. And guess what? She'll use it again. Next time, it might be something bigger. The cycle continues. So how do you handle this like a high-value man? The key is to recognize it for what it is and shut it down immediately. Instead of getting defensive or falling into the guilt trap, respond with, "Love isn't a transaction. If you respect me, you won't manipulate me." This statement sets a firm boundary. You're not negotiating your self-respect. It sends a clear message. You see the manipulation for what it is, and you won't tolerate it. And it reaffirms your values. Your love is genuine, not a bargaining chip. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Don't let emotional manipulation cloud your judgment. Stand firm. If she truly values you, she'll recognize your independence and engage in mature, respectful conversations, without resorting to guilt. Listen, if she says this once or twice in an emotional moment, maybe she doesn't realize what she's doing. We all slip up. But if this becomes a pattern, it's not about love anymore. It's about control. And that's a relationship dynamic you don't want to invest in. Remember, real love uplifts you. Manipulation chains you. Number 3. My ex used to do this for me. When a woman compares you to her ex, it's not just an innocent comment. It's a subtle power play designed to shift the dynamic of the relationship in her favor. She's not reminiscing about the past. She's subtly trying to get into your head, making you wonder, am I good enough? Should I be doing more? And that's exactly where the manipulation creeps in. She wants you to compete for her validation, to work harder, to outdo someone who's not even in the picture anymore. It's not about the ex, it's about control. Picture this. You're on a date, feeling good, and you order a nice bottle of wine. You think it's a classy move, a nice touch to the evening. But then she casually drops, "Oh, my ex knew so much about wine. He always picked the best bottles." What just happened? She's not complimenting her ex. She's subtly undermining you, planting a seed of doubt. And if you react emotionally, defending yourself, trying to prove your worth, you've fallen right into the trap. Because now, she controls the frame of the conversation. Over time, if you don't catch this pattern, it chips away at your confidence. You start feeling insecure, wondering if you're good enough. You seek her approval, trying harder to impress her, even at the cost of your own self-respect. You begin to tolerate disrespect, accepting these comparisons as if they're normal. But listen, no high-value man tolerates that. So how do you handle it? Don't take the bait. Stay calm, composed, and in control. If she says something like that, you can hit back with something light yet pointed, like, "Sounds like you're still thinking about him a lot. Should I give you some space?" Or you could flip the dynamic entirely with, "Oh, you're still comparing? That's interesting." And if you really want to draw the line, be direct. I'm not interested in competing with your past. Either we move forward or we don't. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Don't stoop to competing with ghosts. Rise above. If a woman constantly brings up her ex, it says more about her emotional maturity than it does about you. A mature woman values you for who you are. A toxic woman makes you feel like you'll never measure up. So remember, you are not an option. You are the prize. Number 4, you're too sensitive. Have you ever expressed how you feel only to be hit with something like, "Ugh, you're too sensitive," or "Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" Maybe even, "Relax, it was just a joke." If so, listen closely, because this phrase is a subtle yet powerful manipulation tactic designed to make you doubt yourself. When someone tells you you're too sensitive, they're not just tossing out a casual remark. No, what they're really doing is invalidating your emotions. It's a deflection. Instead of addressing the issue you brought up, they flip the script to make it seem like you're the problem. It shifts the focus from their behavior to your reaction, subtly planting the idea that your feelings are exaggerated or unwarranted. Imagine this. She makes a disrespectful joke about you in front of your friends. Later, you pull her aside and calmly say, "That made me uncomfortable. I didn't appreciate that." Instead of acknowledging your feelings or offering an apology, she rolls her eyes and responds, "Oh my God, you're too sensitive. It was just a joke." What just happened? She completely dismissed your feelings, making it seem like you're the one overreacting. This tactic is how toxic individuals avoid accountability. They make you feel like you're the problem, so they don't have to reflect on or change their own behavior. Hearing this kind of response repeatedly can wear you down over time. You might start questioning yourself. Maybe I am overreacting. You begin to suppress your feelings, doubting whether your emotions are valid. Eventually, you might even tolerate behavior that should be completely unacceptable, conditioned to believe that standing up for yourself is the real issue. But here's the truth. A confident, self-assured man knows that having emotions doesn't make him weak. It makes him human. It's not about being overly sensitive. It's about expecting respect in your relationships. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, how do you respond when faced with this manipulation? Stay calm and grounded. You might say, "I'm not too sensitive. I just expect respect in a relationship." Simple, direct, and firm. Or flip the frame entirely. It's interesting that you're more focused on how I reacted than what you actually said. This shifts the responsibility back to where it belongs, on her behavior, not your feelings. And if the dismissiveness continues, set a clear boundary. I don't tolerate people who dismiss my feelings. If you can't communicate respectfully, we're done here. Remember, you don't need to argue for your worth. A high-value man doesn't beg for respect. He walks away from those who refuse to give it. Emotional awareness is not a weakness, it's a strength. Being in touch with your feelings, knowing how to express them, and standing firm when someone tries to invalidate them, that's real emotional strength. A woman who genuinely respects you will never make you feel small for expressing your feelings. A toxic one will do it all the time. The choice is yours. Number 5, I was just joking, relax. Have you ever been in a situation where someone said something hurtful, disrespectful, or even humiliating, only to brush it off with, "Come on, I was just joking. Don't be so serious." Or, "Wow, you really can't take a joke." Maybe even, "Relax. I didn't mean it that way." If so, pay attention, because this phrase isn't just harmless banter. It's often a subtle manipulation tactic, designed to test your boundaries and make you doubt your right to stand up for yourself. When someone makes a hurtful remark and hides behind the excuse of just joking, they're not being playful. They're testing how much they can get away with. They're seeing if you'll challenge them or if you'll laugh it off, giving them permission to continue. This isn't about humor, it's about control. They disguise insults as jokes, weaving in digs under the guise of playfulness, so if you react, they can flip the script and make you feel like the problem. Imagine you're out with friends. The vibe is light, everyone's laughing, and suddenly she says, "Oh, he's terrible at making decisions. He's basically useless without me." Everyone chuckles, but inside, you feel that sting. Later, you pull her aside and say, "I didn't appreciate that comment." Instead of acknowledging your feelings, she rolls her eyes and replies, "Oh my God, it was just a joke. You're being too sensitive." What just happened? She crossed a boundary. But instead of owning it, she dismissed your feelings, making you question whether you were wrong to bring it up in the first place. That's manipulation. If this pattern continues, it chips away at your confidence. You start to doubt yourself. Am I overreacting? Maybe I should just let it go. You tolerate disrespect to keep the peace. Over time, it can erode your sense of self-worth. But here's the thing. A strong man doesn't let disrespect slide. When someone cloaks an insult in humor, call it out immediately. Say, "Jokes are supposed to be funny, not insulting." If you meant it, own it. This forces them to take responsibility for their words, or flip the situation. "Oh, so if I said the same thing about you, would you still be laughing?" That simple question makes them reconsider their behavior. You can also set a firm boundary. If that's your idea of a joke, I'm not interested in playing along. A confident man doesn't entertain toxic behavior, period. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Maintain your integrity. Don't stoop to their level. A woman who respects you will never use humor as a weapon to undermine you. A toxic person will do it constantly and then blame you for reacting. A high-value man recognizes this and refuses to tolerate disguised disrespect. If she keeps doing this, she's not joking. She's showing you who she really is. Believe her. Number 6, you should know what's wrong. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where she suddenly goes cold, gives you the silent treatment, and when you ask, "What's wrong?" she snaps back with, "You should know what's wrong." Or worse, "If you don't know, I'm not going to tell you." This isn't just frustration. It's a mind game designed to keep you off balance. Instead of having an adult conversation, she's testing you, shifting the burden of understanding her emotions entirely onto you. This phrase isn't about communication. It's about control. When someone expects you to magically know what's wrong without expressing their feelings, it creates frustration, anxiety, and a sense of walking on eggshells. The goal is simple: to force you into a position where you're chasing their approval, desperate to fix something you don't even understand. It's passive-aggressive behavior at its core, undermining healthy communication and replacing it with unnecessary tension and drama. Imagine you've just come back from an evening out with friends. Everything seemed fine, but now she's distant. You ask, "Hey, is something wrong?" She responds curtly, "Nothing." Sensing something's off, you press further, "Are you sure?" And then comes the line, "You should know what's wrong." Suddenly you're spiraling, replaying every moment in your mind, trying to decode what went wrong. Stop right there. This isn't about what you did. It's about control. It's designed to make you feel guilty, to scramble for answers, to chase her validation when no clear issue has been communicated. Over time, engaging in this dynamic chips away at your confidence. You start second-guessing yourself constantly, feeling like you're always on the verge of making an invisible mistake. You begin to fear upsetting her without knowing why, which leads to walking on eggshells. Your self-assurance erodes, replaced by a constant quest to keep her happy, even when she's unwilling to articulate what's bothering her. And that's exactly what a manipulative person wants, to keep you in a perpetual state of doubt and neediness. A strong man does not play guessing games. If a woman refuses to communicate, that's her issue, not yours. You're not a mind reader, and expecting you to be one is both unfair and immature. The best response is direct and confident. Say something like, "I can't read minds." If something's wrong, communicate it like an adult. This shifts the responsibility back where it belongs, on her to express herself. Alternatively, you can remove the power from her silent treatment with a simple, "If you can't tell me what's wrong, then it must not be that serious." This statement is not dismissive. It's a clear boundary. You're not going to engage in emotional guesswork. And if the behavior continues, it's perfectly okay to set a firm boundary. I don't play guessing games. If you have a problem, talk to me. Otherwise, I'm not engaging in this. A high-value man doesn't chase validation. He commands respect through clear communication and boundaries. At the heart of every healthy relationship is open, honest dialogue. A mature woman understands the value of expressing her feelings directly. She doesn't rely on cryptic comments or emotional withdrawal to get her point across. If she refuses to communicate and expects you to decode her silence, that's her problem, not yours. Walk away from the game. You deserve a partnership built on clarity, respect, and mutual understanding. Number 7. Real men would. Have you ever had a woman say something like, "A real man would pay for everything," or "A real man wouldn't be scared of commitment," or even, "A real man would fight for me no matter what"? Listen, when you hear these words, it's not a compliment. It's not encouragement. It's manipulation. Plain and simple. You see, this phrase is designed to hit you right where it hurts, your sense of masculinity. It's a subtle game, an emotional lever she pulls to see if she can get you to bend, to break, to prove yourself according to her standards. But here's the truth. When someone says, "A real man would," they're not just voicing an opinion. They're trying to define what it means to be a man, on their terms. It's like dangling a carrot of validation just out of reach, making you chase it to prove your worth. Imagine you've been dating for a few months. One night, she asks for an expensive gift, and you, standing firm in your financial boundaries, say, "I'm not comfortable spending that kind of money." Instead of respecting your decision, she fires back with, "Wow, a real man wouldn't be so cheap." See what just happened? It's not about the gift. It's about control. She's not upset because of the thing itself. She's upset because you didn't fold to her expectations. Now, if you start buying into this toxic script, it chips away at your confidence. Suddenly, you find yourself constantly proving your manhood, suppressing your own values just to keep her happy. It's like walking on eggshells, questioning whether you're man enough every time you set a boundary. And that's exactly the point of this manipulation, to make you feel inadequate, to keep you in a perpetual state of self-doubt. But here's the thing. A real man isn't defined by anyone else's checklist. He defines himself. He stands firm in his values, grounded like an oak tree in a storm. When faced with this kind of manipulation, the response is simple and direct. You can say, "A real man doesn't let someone else define what a real man is." Just like that, you reclaim your power. Or flip the script. "That's funny, because a real woman wouldn't try to manipulate me." This not only disarms the tactic, but forces her to confront her own behavior. And if the pattern continues, don't be afraid to draw a hard line. If you need a man to prove himself to you constantly, you're not looking for a relationship. You're looking for control. And I'm not interested in that game. Remember, True masculinity isn't about meeting someone else's expectations. It's about authenticity, integrity, and self-respect. It's not something you prove with grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's something you live every day through your actions, your boundaries, and your principles. So, the next time someone tries to box you into their definition of a real man, pause, breathe, stand tall, because the only person who gets to define you is you. Number 8. You're lucky to have me. Imagine this. You're dating a woman, treating her with respect, investing your time, energy, and emotions into the relationship. Things seem good until one day she looks at you and says, "You're lucky to have me." Or even worse, she throws in, "Most guys would kill to be with me. You should appreciate me more." Now listen, that's not confidence speaking. That's arrogance wrapped in a bow of subtle manipulation. At first, it might seem like a playful comment, something brushed off with a laugh. But if this phrase keeps slipping into conversations, it's a red flag waving right in front of you. She's not joking, she's setting the tone. What she's really saying is, "I'm the prize, and you should feel privileged to be here." You see, a woman who genuinely respects and values you won't need to declare her worth at the expense of yours. She won't position herself as someone you should feel lucky to have while conveniently ignoring the value you bring to the table. When she says, "You're lucky to have me," she's subtly suggesting, "I'm more valuable than you," or worse, "I could replace you if I wanted to." Picture this. You go out of your way to plan a thoughtful evening, dinner, maybe a small surprise, showing genuine care. Instead of gratitude, she smirks and says, "Wow, you're so lucky to have a girl like me." That's not appreciation. That's an ego trip. It shifts the dynamic from mutual respect to one where she sits on a pedestal she's built for herself, expecting you to look up in awe. And here's where it gets dangerous. If you let this slide, it starts small. But over time, it chips away at your confidence. You begin to feel like you have to prove your worth constantly, bending over backward to maintain a relationship that feels increasingly one-sided. You'll find yourself chasing validation, doing more while receiving less. And that's exactly the dynamic she wants, where you're the one trying to earn your place. But listen, a high-value man knows his worth. He doesn't allow anyone to define his value or make him feel like he's less. If she hits you with the "you're lucky to have me" line, flip the script. Say, "Actually, we're both lucky to have each other, or at least we should be." That reframes the dynamic instantly. It's not about one person being the prize. It's about mutual respect and appreciation. Or, if her arrogance is persistent, hit her with, "If that's how you feel, why don't you test how lucky I really am?" A subtle challenge like this forces her to reflect on her own attitude. And if the behavior continues, set a firm boundary. "I don't date people who think I'm beneath them. If you don't see my value, maybe we're not a good match." A confident man doesn't chase validation. He demands respect, and he's not afraid to walk away from anyone who can't offer it. Remember, relationships should be mutual. Confidence is attractive, but arrogance is a neon sign of toxicity. A healthy relationship isn't about who's lucky to have who. It's about two people who recognize and value each other equally. So the next time someone tries to put themselves on a pedestal above you, don't look up. Keep your head level and your standards higher. Number 9. I don't need a man. Listen closely. Ever had a woman look you straight in the eye and say, "I don't need a man. I'm independent. I can do everything on my own. Men are useless. I don't need one to be happy." At first glance, it might sound like empowerment, right? But hold on. Despite saying this, she still expects you to provide, protect, and lead. Sounds familiar? If so, pay close attention, because this isn't just a bold statement. It's a flashing red flag. When a woman drops the "I don't need a man" line, she's not just declaring her independence. No, she's subtly devaluing the role of men in relationships. It's not about strength, it's often about control. She's setting the stage to make you feel replaceable, unnecessary, as if you're just an accessory to her life, not a partner. But here's the twist. The same woman who shouts, "I don't need a man," often expects one to pay for dinner, fix her car, provide emotional support, and be her rock when life gets tough. See the contradiction? Picture this. She proudly posts online about being a strong, independent woman. But when her car breaks down, who does she call? You. When her rent is due, who does she hint at for help? You. When she's lonely and craving attention, guess who suddenly matters again? Yep, you. This isn't about independence. It's about selective convenience. She wants the benefits of having a man without acknowledging the value you bring. And if you keep engaging with this mindset, it takes a toll. You start to feel undervalued, like your presence doesn't matter. Your confidence takes a hit because you're constantly reminded that you're not needed. It becomes a one-sided relationship where you give and she takes without a shred of genuine appreciation. But listen, a high-value man doesn't beg to be needed. If she says she doesn't need a man, believe her. Let her prove it. Because the truth is, a confident man knows his worth and never sticks around where he isn't respected. So how do you handle this? You flip the script, look her in the eye and say, "That's great. I only spend time with people who appreciate me." Watch how that shifts the dynamic. Or reverse the frame. "Good to know. So you won't be expecting anything from me then, right?" See how quickly the narrative changes when she realizes you're not playing her game. And if it keeps happening, set a firm boundary. "I don't waste time with people who don't see value in me. Best of luck." A relationship should be a partnership, not a power struggle. A confident, mature woman acknowledges the value of a good man. A toxic woman pretends she doesn't need one until it benefits her. So, if she keeps saying, "I don't need a man," take her at her word. Move on. Because a real relationship isn't about proving your worth. It's about mutual respect. Number 10. You're not man enough. Listen, there's a phrase that hits harder than most, and not in a good way. You're not man enough. Now, imagine this scenario. You've been handling your business, standing your ground, making decisions based on your values. Then, out of nowhere, she drops that line. "You're not man enough." It stings, doesn't it? But here's the thing. That's not just an insult. It's a calculated move, a psychological jab designed to throw you off balance. You see, a woman who genuinely respects you would never weaponize your masculinity. That phrase isn't about you lacking something. It's about her trying to control you. She's pushing your buttons, testing the waters to see how much power she holds over your emotions. It's not a reflection of your character. It's a reflection of her intent. When she says it, what she's really doing is trying to manipulate you into compliance. She wants you to feel inadequate, to scramble and prove your worth. But listen, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. The moment you take that bait, you hand over your power. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Let that sink in. Think about it. You set a boundary, say no to something unreasonable, and instead of having an adult conversation, she fires back with, "Wow, a real man wouldn't be scared to commit," or "Maybe I should find someone stronger." She's not seeking a solution. She's poking at your identity, trying to get a reaction. But here's the secret. Don't react. A strong man doesn't flinch. Over time, if you keep absorbing that toxicity, it starts to seep in. You might catch yourself questioning, am I really not man enough? You find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly trying to prove something that was never in question. That's the trap. But the truth? A real man doesn't engage in that game. He knows his worth. So, how do you handle it? Simple. Call it out. Look her in the eye and say, a real man doesn't need to prove himself. He already knows his worth. Watch how that shifts the dynamic. Or flip the script with, funny, because a real woman wouldn't need to use manipulation to get what she wants. Let her sit with that. And if the disrespect continues, you walk. No drama, no long explanations. Just a firm boundary. I don't entertain people who try to shame me. If you don't respect me, we're done here. That's it. That's your power. At the end of the day, being a real man isn't about fitting into someone else's definition. It's about living by your values, standing firm in who you are, and never letting anyone shake that foundation. As Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Remember that. So, if anyone ever questions your manhood, don't argue, don't defend. Just stand tall, knowing you define who you are, no one else. The truth is, high-value men don't argue with disrespect. They recognize it, they acknowledge it for what it is, and they walk away. Because the moment you start explaining, defending, or justifying yourself to a toxic woman, you've already lost. Which of these have you heard before? Let's talk in the comments. If you found this valuable, hit that like button. Subscribe for more Stoic wisdom and dating advice. And watch next, the 5 manipulation tricks women use and how to counter them. Stay strong, stay disciplined, stay high value. Blast off.